This section doesn't have internet.
Internet, yes.
Oh, it's terrible, isn't it?
I'm trying to get the,
Whenever I'm trying.
Welcome, Kim. Kim and John, can you hear us all right?
I can. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Yep. All right. I think we are in business.
Okay, now I can call us to order.
Sounds good. Yeah. So yeah, Danielle's not with us today. So I think everyone who was able to attend is here.
But
5:34. We're late.
this never happens when Danielle's in charge.
We have.
I just like saying that when anybody's
That's very
subbing.
funny. Public comments. Anyone?
I just got here.
Okay.
Welcome, member of the public. Would you like to introduce yourself, or we can go around real quick and?
Sure, I'm Ramona Janowich. I'm a member of the public and I live in Williston. I ride and run and hike at Catamount several times a week. So I'm just interested in what's going on. and-
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, that's great. Ramona, what'd you say your last name was?
JANOWETCH.
Jan. ETCH. Great.
Just the way it sounded.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, and I guess with that, we'll do the minutes from last week. We need to look at them.
Yep.
Gene, you always have edits. What's your edit?
No, I don't this time.
No?
No. Just spell my name.
Drew,
right.
how about you?
They looked great from home.
Kim?
I move we approve the minutes from last month's meeting.
No one even wants to see them. No, it's
Well,
great.
I'm better at home.
You're speeding ahead of me. I'm like 2 steps behind here today. But,
I would
great.
second that.
All right, well, then all in favor?
I
Aye.
Right, that was Tim and Drew, and then
And
passes
unanimous
4-0.
Wow, pretty good.
I just want to say that I think you take really concise minutes, which is
yes,
helpful.
thank you.
Thank you,
Just
Kim.
just enough detail without
Yeah.
quite so much detail.
Yeah, not
Yeah, I
like
think it's perfect.
unsaid. Then I'm like, oh no.
I'll just back and listen to it. I don't think I said that, but yeah. It's like, no, it's-
David, or I'm not David.
David, do you actually, I'm not me, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I was looking at these going like, it would have been helpful for me to read them closer to the meeting instead of like half an hour ago. Do you post these somewhere? Do you?
Closer to the meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah, I post them online, but I can.
no, you can just post them online.
Yeah.
I should go look for them, but.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I link them in the agenda, but yeah, I can try
You
to.
could shoot it an email and say they're
Yeah.
posted if you.
Sure. I'm gonna make it up for that.
Okay, well, let us continue on our agenda to elect the fiscal year 26 committee chair. First, we need somebody to nominate. What is our process? You nominate yourself?
So we just need a nomination and someone needs to second that nomination. And then once we have at least one nomination, we can vote. We have a quorum, so we can certainly move forward with that. And so the Catamount committee is not strictly regulated by, Williston's bylaws in the way that some of the other committees are kind of structured in the way that they're chartered, that they have a chair, a vice chair. Used to be secretarial, that doesn't really happen these days. So for this committee, we've had a chair. We certainly have the option. We can also elect a vice chair. If that's something that would be of interest.
I think it's helpful just in this kind of situation.
Yeah.
So you know
Yeah.
kind of who's gonna run the.
Yeah.
I was vice chair.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if there was.
Do we know if Danielle is interested in continuing? I don't know. Do you know Kim? Is anybody else interested in?
I have no idea. I can tell you that I will do a bad job because I think I have a role on Conservation Commission that I've been neglectful of while I was away, and I just have a lot of new roles at work. So I'm just being honest.
If we don't really know one way or the other with Danielle, I'd probably move we postpone or table this till the next meeting.
I mean,
they're
unless-
doing a great job and.
Unless somebody else wants to raise their hand. If you
Does
want.
it make sense to have somebody with more historical knowledge than myself doing something like that.
I think
Like
it's
some-
really procedural. It's
Yeah,
like, do you
yes.
have
So-
time to like read the minutes and prepare and like, I don't know, that's my take from having roles on Conservation Commission. It's like, do you have the capacity to like read things a few days in advance and like be prepped to lead the meeting?
Mhm.
Yeah, and like just to be, David will email and say, does this agenda look good? And
Yeah,
then you can
exactly.
say,
Like, do you have any topics that you think would be good to include? Anything
Yeah.
that's on your radar? Sometimes, Danielle as chair would come in the week before and we'd sit down and chat about stuff. So I think interest and time, yeah, kind of like Kim said, are the most important qualifiers
Okay.
rather than history.
Well, I think Danielle's been doing a great job. I mean, I don't want to step on her toes or anything like that. So I think I would have the time to do something like that, should the need present
I
itself.
don't think she'd be
He's
disappointed.
disappointed.
I mean, I was chair before Danielle was, and then we were up to elect a new chair, and I said, I forget if I talked to Danielle ahead of time. I said, it's nice if we kind of rotate this around.
Mhm.
I mean, it just is different personalities and styles, and so then Danielle said,
Sure.
okay, fine, I'll do it. So I mean, if you have
Sure.
the same sort of sentiment, I don't think she'll be disappointed if you take it
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
and not turn and twist your arm too hard.
It's fine. I think I'd be happy to do that.
Well, I nominate Drew Crandall as chair.
I second.
Any other nominations?
Wait, who calls the vote with Danielle not here?
The vice chair.
Oh, yeah,
But
I'm the vice chair.
you're still a vice chair.
Yeah, well, all in favor then of Drew as
Do I
chair?
vote for myself here
I
You
think
can.
you vote.
or? All right,
All right.
Aye.
There you go.
Aye.
Good,
Congratulations.
four.
Thank you.
Ramona's like, wow, this is an awesome
I like
committee.
this.
And we'll, if you don't.
You can nominate Mona as well.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, who with this? How about the new person?
Yeah, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
Thank
Right.
you.
And I would nominate Danielle as vice chair. It's just sort of a emeritus position that we should help transition.
Yeah,
and
sure.
Since she does
Yeah,
extra
it's a
chair,
nice,
she'll probably be
nice
thrilled.
tradition.
Yeah,
to
pass the
that,
baton.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's funny because Conservation Commission does it the opposite way, where we like appoint a vice
Oh.
chair and then the vice chair becomes
Moves
chair.
up. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
So like, oh, next year.
I like this one.
They both work. They both work.
Yeah.
This way is more like, hey, I won't abandon you if you need
Yeah.
help, call me.
Yeah.
I did it last year, I know how to help you. Yeah, Danielle, I second
You
that.
second that?
Yeah.
Now you can go.
Aye.
with it. You can
Oh,
go.
oh yeah. Now you can
All
call
right,
the
all in
vote.
favor of Danielle as the vice chair.
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
Four.
Wow, that was so joyous.
Collaborative.
I mean, do you want me to finish writing today or?
Yeah, that'd be great. I don't even have the agenda in front of me, so.
Yeah.
Say
I
that.
can,
Actually, I won't be here next month, just so I know. I
That's-
said
Oh,
that already, but
sure.
Oh, well, then
So-
Danielle will run.
hopefully Danielle will be here.
So I can share, why don't we can take a look at the agenda real quick as we're calling it. So we just elected our fiscal year 26 committee chair. Just a reminder, the Williston's fiscal year is July 1st through June 30th. So we could have elected last spot, or last. So we'll have our family center update from John. We don't have any proposed events, but we have gotten a number of use requests for Catamount that are worth talking about. We'll have a quick follow-up on conversations from last time. And if we have time, we'll discuss a couple of minor items. So let's see what we're looking at this week.
Okay, so John, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. How's it going?
Good.
So we've had a really busy summer with hosting several other communities, Essex Junction, Bristol, Richmond. We've also concluded our summer camp season with Little Bellas, and we're still hosting events with Vermont Adaptive, and then we also had the UVM Eastern Collegiate Cup race coming up in a couple weeks. It is a really fun event if anybody wants to come out. It is a good spectator event for sure. A lot of schools from around the region are there, and lots and lots of fun racing. Speaking of races, our weekly races are doing really well this year. We've seen participation grow, and we've had some particularly big running nights too. The series is a big part of our history and our service to the community. It's low priced and non-competitive, and so we're excited that it's doing well. Camp wraps up tomorrow, and we've had a really good season with that. We're excited to continue developing it and growing the participation as much as we can, which is really just a few more spots that we're going to hopefully sell very easily next year, because we had, excuse me, we had significant wait lists this year for 6 to 7 and 8 to 10-year-old kids, up to 100 in total there. So we're hoping that we can fully sell out in this coming year, and maximize at least where we are in the in our current space. We concluded our wetlands delineations, and they've been accepted by the state. And then we're close on submitting our permit for that. We also had our archaeological at least site visit today with Scott Dillon, who is the he said his title, I forget. He's the coordinator and reviewer of historic places in the state for at least for us. And it was a illuminating meeting in many ways. The costs are likely to be higher than we might have hoped, and the limitations as to what type of work and where we can do it may be impactful to our plans. We've already adjusted by going back to the McCulloughs and asking for a way to continue to use the farm road that goes by their house, instead of trying to develop the easement access that had been the original plan that came away from the parking oval and went up into the Applesauce Trail on the south side. Our wetlands person told us that we really basically were not allowed to do it in a way that replaced that road. And in order to maintain the agricultural access for mowing and brush hogging on that side, we needed to build essentially, a road to get up in there. And as it being wetlands, they told us the only thing we could really do without a permit was to mow a path, and the only thing we could do with a permit was boardwalk it, which really limited the access there, and it being not a dramatically steep hill, but even a 8% grade on a boardwalk can be pretty steep. So it was not at all appropriate for what we were hoping to accomplish there. And I'll let David update if there is any with regard to the agreement with the McCulloughs for continued use. So with the archaeological review done, the wetlands permit in process, or not done, I'm sorry, but at least there's a significant plan now to get the reviews in the places that we somewhat need to identify with them. We know some hot spots, but there's some other things that we need to clarify. But that we're this deep in the process, we can also at the same time apply for the Act 250 permit. So all of this is going on at the same time right now. With the elimination of the the hopeful elimination of the new trail from the oval going up and in, where the cost for wetlands permitting is going to be significantly lower, and but we're still not sure where we land on Act 250. The building plan is also moving along really well, and dovetails with this, especially with our archaeological meeting today. They need to review the building site and the septic site, and so there's hurdles and costs to those things too. They may require a dig in some of these places. The cost is $4,500 a day, but they said they could do 200 feet in a day. I'm sorry, in a day. So in terms of trail length, they could do that. I'm not sure how that translates into building time, but these are, and there is a significant piece of the field where piping will go out to the septic site on the Goose Hill side. So again, there's an unknown there. I asked questions and learned about what things matter in terms of impacts, and they said that basically most of the things that had happened, regardless of when they happened, don't make anything how should I say, like all the artifacts should still be there essentially, even for areas that were bulldozed and pushed around a lot or had holes dug. They're still considered somewhat sensitive, and especially in areas around Cliffs of Insanity and Pure Bliss. Those are really considered sensitive areas, and then closer to the center, in between the power line and say Sandman, that also seems to be a hot spot. So, but more to learn, more to update, and more to plan with that. But all of that being in movement does allow us to apply for Act 250, and so that's what we've got going on.
Great. Thanks, John. I was just pulling up the map as you were referencing some of these areas in case anyone needed assistance kind of visualizing the areas that John was discussing.
I did. Where the hot spots. So,
John, do you mind summarizing where the archaeologically sensitive hotspots are one more time?
Sure. Would you use your cursor to direct folks' attention? Thank you. Pure Bliss and Cliffs, and really Pure Bliss and Cliffs of Insanity, that whole flat area that is also hosts Sandmans, at least one part of that loop there. The proximity.
I'm testing David to see if he knows where it is.
Yeah, you are. This is a good test.
Yeah, you're in the right spot as for that. So the proximity to the headwaters areas and the flat spot make it a likely site for artifacts, and that area extends around into in basically again where Sandman's outlines the flatter area on the other side of that piece of higher up, Dave.
Oh, okay.
All the way. You see where basically wherever the little headwaters valleys come up and in.
Right. Okay. So up here. Yeah. Got it. Okay.
Those are considered higher value. We did propose using part of the logging roads that were either created or recreated for the logging project in two spots too. And so those are, but they're also in both of those areas. They're up on rockier areas and considered less sensitive, and that applies also to the areas higher up on the property. Generally up there, not as valuable, although there was some concern around the lookout itself, being named Indian Lookout. And then there are, let's see, on the other side of the road, there's not much, and sorry about that. There are a few things that are also concerning about the more recent history, from the 17 and 1800s. But they're centered around the house and the barn for the most part. Although we did discuss cleaning up one of the dump areas that is right next to the cutoff trail, and so that's down Governor Chittenden Road, and accessed. Yeah, keep going. Keep going. A little more. We're right in that area there.
Mm.
It's more on the ski trail part, and not on the slalom piece there. But that was because of the garbage being on the surface, and obviously not historic, being a toilet and some glass for the most part.
1700s toilet.
not a museum piece toilet.
Yeah.
You know what though? One time historic preservation the historic preservation committee in town invited members of the conservation commission to come to a meeting, and I went because I have this like pipe dream that I'm gonna have a student map all the old like cellar holes and why can't I think of the word? Like the lines that delineated sheep farms. Oh my God, stone walls. That was like brain fart. Please strike that from the record. I have this pipe dream that I'm going to have somebody do that because they're all in forest, right? And there's no record of them, and they're very cool. And anyway, so I went to this meeting, and they talked about how outhouses actually are like sometimes really notable. Like people threw things away in them, and sometimes they are like they really care about them. And I feel like they called them like latrines or something. They like had a different word. So I wonder just if our historic preservation committee might be interested in like glass shards I don't know, just a note. Once I went to one of their meetings and they were interested in old outhouses from that time period.
This is definitely not old stuff on the topic.
Oh, okay.
We did discuss the possibility of stratification there, so there could be layers of that garbage. But that cleaning up, surface glass and a relatively modern toilet was not a problem. We promise not to dig because we don't want to dig in that hole.
Yeah.
It's okay to just take out the stuff that's that we clearly can and should.
Yeah, that's great. I think we can definitely collaborate on that. Try to mobilize some volunteer power. And I mentioned to John that there may be a funding source. I have to look into, but at one time there was a grant that the town had from CSWD that's purpose is basically for removing junk and disposal of areas just like this. So I know it was used in the past at Catamount, and if that fund is still active, then we can likely use it again to haul stuff out of there. So I'm gonna look into that.
Sorry to interrupt, Dave.
No, go ahead.
Speaking of funding, Scott Dillon, the state archaeologist, did recommend that we pursue funding for the studies that we are required to pay for the work there, and there was also some suggestion that some UVM students might also be a way to they could use this work as classwork and defray the costs from the contractor that we're working for, who works at UVM, John Kroc. So there are two pieces there, but that if there are grants that you know of, I have not found any in my travels, but certainly it's possible that they're out there, and we both should be looking for them.
Okay. Okay, good. John, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Anything else for John before we move on? Okay.
I just have,
Board-
sorry, this is like one just super quick clarifying question. The boardwalk idea to applesauce doesn't work because it's cost prohibitive and it would mean people like basically riding up a super steep ramp. Do I have that accurate?
Riding, skiing, grooming, like none of those things really work for it.
Yeah.
And we could make it work, and we could have a way in there, and we could have flat parts and ramps, and like kind of climb it like steps, but it's not ideal and not in any way cost efficient. And the generous offer from the McCulloughs is superior.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I got like if someone asked me that I said it correctly.
Yeah, and David, should we talk about the potential offer for the road, or is that for another meeting?
We can talk. So John and I approached the McCulloughs just for sort of an informal meeting to say, hey, the easement that was negotiated in 2018, and you can see that on the map here. Basically, that easement runs up this black line here, sort of right at the property line, and crosses through this area, which was determined to be pretty much entirely wetland buffer. So that it originally was envisioned that could be, as John said, a 20-foot wide, or not necessarily all of that width, but it's a 20-foot wide easement, and that would basically replace the use of the farm road. So all different uses. And while, as John mentioned, it could conceivably, we could put in a path there and it would probably be usable by pedestrians. There's not really any scenario under which it replaces that farm road. It's not going to be a good access option for skiing. It's not going to be a good, it won't cover agricultural access. And so the wetlands program really sort of suggests that if we look at the options, you should reconsider and have that conversation about whether there are any options on the table with regards to other easements or other legal agreements that could procure access across the private property. So John and I just initiated a conversation with the McCulloughs to say, this is our situation, and maybe we can do some creative brainstorming together. And there's no word there. There's still a lot of conversations to be had, but there is potential for a more direct path that crosses a portion of their property, and the uses that we need and things like agricultural access, recreational access, summer recreational access in the winter, pedestrian access could essentially be split between those two paths. So still a lot of conversations to be had, but was the general initial brainstorming idea, and that was an informal meeting, but some good ideas generated, and grateful for the McCulloughs and John for jumping into that conversation. So we have more to present, definitely will.
Okay. All right, well, we shall move on then to our. We're 7 minutes ahead, our upcoming event and use requests. So you said, David, there's no event request, but the use requests you wanted to talk through. It looks like there's three
Yes.
bullets here.
Okay, so first, kind of going backwards order, so a couple months ago, we met Rich and oh shoot, I'm blanking on the name, was it Mason? The young student who was interested in putting a geocache at Catamount. And I think he's been busy with his 3D cutter, preparing the geocache. And John and I took a look at the map after the committee discussed and said this seemed like a good idea with, considerations like thinking about mud season and when people are going out there. So John and I looked at the map and we said, okay, well, the sort of the north side on the east is the driest area. Whereas most of the areas that are either archaeologically sensitive or sensitive ecologically for wetlands are in this northeast area, while the south side is pretty open. There's not as much woods that would be good for a geocache.
Mhm.
So we said, why don't you go exploring in this kind of quadrant and come back with some ideas about where you might like to put the geocache. And
Don't
they
tell us though, because it'll ruin it.
Oh, good.
Well, you still have to go find it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, if you told me they're putting it right here. then-
They did.
You're gonna be the first one.
I know, that would be cheating though.
Yeah. They did hone in on the summit area. And there'd be good synergy with the fact that that's an attractive destination for people who are going to be hiking out into Catamount anyways. And initially identified some trees that were actually over the boundary line there. So John and I just noted that, or John noted that there's a lot of different trails that are meeting there, and some of them are going to get rerouted. But we're going to try to accommodate that request and just pick an area somewhere in here that is likely not to be affected by the trail reroutes, and then they'll go out and put geocache.
Cool.
I
So-
don't know much about geocache. What is it? Is it like a box that they like attach to a tree? You mentioned like they picked 3 trees.
Yes,
What are
in
the
this
trees have
case,
to do with
yeah, so that's right, I think you missed the
Yeah,
presentation, so
sorry.
it can be any kind of receptacle in different shapes that is sealed, and then when the geocacher finds it, they open it, there's typically a log that you can sign it.
Okay.
And nowadays, as the student was telling us all about, there's apps that kind of help make it fun and catalog where the rough areas of different geocaches are and what the coordinates are. In this case, the geocache is going to look like a birdhouse, but we did talk about how it'll be sealed so a bird couldn't actually nest in it, but it'll be attached to a tree.
And it looks like a bluebird house. We're gonna have
Yeah.
a lot of bluebirds getting disrupted from people randomly tearing into bluebird houses looking for this geocache. I'm not even joking. Of all things, that doesn't seem like the best idea. There's
So
so
it-
many.
my nephews do this. It's really like about map reading. So if like the real bluebird houses aren't near the locations, they won't go in it.
Okay.
Because it's
Right,
like
yeah.
really it's not like they get a picture of something and they're looking for it. They get like coordinates and they have to navigate to it. And then like they don't know what it's gonna look like. Sometimes it's like a cigar box. Sometimes it's like
Oh, I see. So
a
it's not like
Furby.
go locate a bluebird.
Yeah.
yeah.
But that is a very reasonable thing to ask, and we did bring that. I think Drew brought it up because there are so many bird nests out there. But all of the nest boxes are in open areas.
Yeah.
This is deep in the forest,
Okay.
and
No, that
I think
sounds great.
the risk of that is mitigated. But it's a thoughtful question. So
Oh, okay. Now we can move on then.
Go
You
on.
were gonna-
Just a note that Chapin
Yes.
is in the waiting room.
thank you very much for pointing that out.
You're very welcome.
Welcome, Chapin. So that's an easy one. Geocache is basically pedestrian access, and just with a couple of thoughtful considerations for how to make sure it doesn't conflict with other uses. The other two are more niche. So we got one request for metal detecting at Catamount. And I did a little bit of checking just to get a sense of whether we allow that at other town-owned lands in Williston. And I don't think there is a written policy at this time, but it's not something that we are really, I think, interested in allowing, particularly at Catamount, because while metal detecting could be passive, it is almost always accompanied by
Digging,
digging.
yeah.
Yeah,
And even if someone is covering up their holes, to mitigate the safety issue, the fact that it's archaeologically sensitive, it seems like not necessarily a good fit. But having said that, sometimes there are ways to accommodate different uses, and so wanted to bring that to the committee, see what other thoughts were related to
and
metal
you,
detecting.
the management plan doesn't speak to this, I
The
guess.
management plan does not mention.
And metal detecting wouldn't be considered a type of celebration. Right? they're not
Maybe we
allowed.
find something.
Sorry, that was a prior discussion.
I'd be concerned that people are wearing headphones and listening to clicks and not bikes and, runners coming
Oh,
by.
is that how it works? They're,
I'm not an expert, but I see people wearing headphones and listening for feedback, and that's where they dig. I don't know if everybody does that, but
This is just people out there looking
One
for.
right now that we checked out from the library. Like I'm tempted to go like get it out of the bag and see if it came with headphones.
I mean, I think the fact that it involves digging. We
Yeah.
just sat here talking about archaeologic digging,
right.
and I use AI for everything now, right? It says they're looking for relics.
Mhm.
We got people out there like digging up archaeological areas,
Yeah.
looking for stuff.
So for that
What the
reason,
heck?
the state does have an explicit policy. They do not allow metal detecting on state lands.
Okay.
So if we were to ask Scott Dillon, the answer would certainly be that we'd be advised not to.
It's good enough for me.
And it's
I don't
also
know.
sort of waving an instrument back and forth a lot too, which is potentially obstructing people's paths.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, but I think that for me the deal killer is just digging.
Yeah.
It involves digging.
I'm mostly impressed that they asked. Like
Yeah,
I'm surprised they didn't.
just
I
go.
would. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it was a phone call. And respectful. I said, I think the answer is no for the time being, but I'll bring it before the committee. And they were, there wasn't any intense pushback. They just advocated for it. But okay. Great. So then the third request, which I think is the most in the middle, and oops.
Sorry, not to be dumb, but we
Oh,
need to
go
go
ahead.
read it. AI thinks that the Catamount Community Forest Management Plan actually lists under activities not currently permitted metal detecting.
Oh, maybe.
Sometimes AI is delirious.
I don't think it's in there. Like
Yeah,
I would
maybe AI
be
is
shocked.
delirious,
But they say
hallucinating.
Yeah,
That's what it is,
yeah.
right?
But I mean, someone should control F the management plan.
Okay, so yeah, I just checking that this is a searchable version. And I did not see metal detecting. I see metal.
Scott Dillon informed me that because the property is on the National Historic Registry, that it automatically has restrictions on it. So I'm not sure how broad those restrictions currently are, but clearly the committee is not supporting it either. So
Right.
We just said we don't have a formal policy about this. However, we're currently having discussions about the need for archaeological review and limitations on the site because of its historic significance. We can't in good faith say yes at this time or
That's
something
a
like
really
that.
That's a really good thoughtful answer, and it.
Yeah, it's way better than my answer, which was no.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're both reasonable.
Yeah,
I think that is a certainly a thoughtful approach, and not trying to enter this looking for reasons to say no, but it rang some alarm bells, and I think that's the best articulation of that. So. Okay. So the third request, which I think is the one that is most kind of in the middle, with potential to go either way, is we had a call from Jack Riccitelli. Jack is a student at VSU, and representative of a group of students there that are training to get their commercial pilot's license for drones and remote controlled planes. And what Jack's request was to see if Catamount was open to some events for this student group. A couple of events in the fall when school is in session. Possibly, I think he said 2 to 3 events from August, October being the general time when they're most active and are looking for opportunities to use their skills. He said they're all highly trained pilots, training to have a professional certification in this. And so I did go. He was nice. He went to Catamount asking, and Amanda and I checked in with each other and talked, and we said, oh, why don't you not do it today? But I invited him to come today. I don't think he was able to, but may be able to make a future meeting if people are interested in talking with Jack. But I did look at the plan. And just like this, if we do a search for drone, for example, it doesn't come up. It was not mentioned when it's
ask AI if drone is in there.
you can ask it. It also, in this case, these are not the typical sort of rotary drones, but that they are remote controlled fixed wing miniature airplanes, I believe, is essentially how they work. So that's the request, and
Miniature being how miniature?
I think he said 18-inch wingspan.
Okay.
Are they collecting data in it? Like, is part of it like data collection or photography?
I do not know. I think it's more of a chance for practicing the technical skills.
Yeah.
But certainly in this profession or in the world of applying that skill set, that's an application of that. But
Yeah,
I don't
I
know if
was
they'd be interested in doing that.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, if they were gonna do that, then like John, is there some data or photography that would be useful? Like, I don't know, I know that there have been photographers at Catamount that have used drones before, like Gretchen Powers has done that when she's stayed with the McCulloughs. She's like a really well respected sports photographer. She shoots like Nordic World Cups. And like, would that be valuable to you? And then the other side of that coin is like, does it disrupt operation in some way?
I mean, I think the difference in flight pattern is probably significant between like an actual video shot from a drone and what these might capture, because just the way that a drone can go directly up and down, where a plane is always going to be going somewhere. I think is I mean, I think it's it might have some we might have some really cool footage, but it's not quite like what a drone would do, as far as I understand the aircraft.
What does this look like? Like they want an event, then I imagine we don't want the public wandering around on Goose Hill. So then like they close down the Goose Hill backfield or something, and
So I think
Why
that's open for discussion. I mean, the first question is, would it be allowed as a general activity? And my initial thought on that is it's probably not a neutral enough use that we would want to say, hey, anyone can go fly a plane or a drone at Catamount anytime they want. But that if that were the case, that also, right, that doesn't necessarily mean that it couldn't be the kind of activity that could be permitted for a special event at Catamount a couple times a year. So there are different ways that could be gone with thinking about whether this activity fits. And I think I can't recall if I explicitly asked that, but I think I did ask, would there need to be no one else around? And I don't think that's necessarily the case. That they would need to close down the whole south side or whatever, but it would be the Goose Hill areas where they want to do it. That's where it's open and where there's the good, sort of the optimal place for this.
I'm kind of struggling with how this fits into what we're trying to do in the forest. That's sort of where I am. It's not quite like the no digging archaeological damage, but it's more like we'll add motorcycle
wonder-
races, or it's like, where do you kind of draw the line if this is the mission?
I guess it fits with like the educational
That was
component.
kind of, yeah, that was something that I thought about as well. I think if it does feel a little different that this is a student group from VSU that explicitly has an educational focus with related to this skill than, for example, just like a citizen enthusiast group. It does feel a little different in my mind, but Gina, I do think you bring up a good point. And, it might be, I can point out a few things that I noticed in the management plan here that kind of suggests some gray area, but I didn't find anything in here that suggests that it would, explicitly be ruled out right off the bat. We look at activities that are currently not permitted, hunting, alcohol use, dogs, horseback riding. Most of these are snowmobiling. Most of these, the way that they're presented in this plan is they're not allowed at this time because of conflicts with use or because of certain things. That there might be a way to allow this in the future. So at least as this was put together in 2018, most of these activities weren't necessarily ruled out on their like philosophical grounds.
I'll just tell you all of them were like things that the committee couldn't come to agreement on, and so that's how we wrote it.
Okay.
Like someone could propose something, but we have run out of time and we can't come up with a proposal that works.
Yeah. Even trapping is listed as allowed by permission from the select board.
Oh, wow.
Camping, we know that camping is something that's permitted under special events. People can't just go camp there, but there are special permitted events like Rut Fest, I think, overnight race where I think there's camping. So if we take a look at this other activities, there is a note here that I think is sort of relevant, but also doesn't quite apply. So it says right here, organized user groups of a particular activity can petition the Williston Select Board to consider additional recreation activities if they're consistent with the purposes of the easement. However, activities more suitable to open, non-forested land and with recreational facilities that currently exist elsewhere in Williston are not considered appropriate in the town forest. At face value, that might seem like maybe this isn't an appropriate use, but what's listed there are things like volleyball courts, disc golf, and community gardens. So it seems to me that this paragraph is referring to more of like if somebody was interested in installing recreational infrastructure at Catamount to serve a new use. All of these are kind of fit that model. So it's sort of a gray area in terms of at face value, this comment makes it seem like, okay, flying a plane is more suitable to open non-forested land, but a closer reading might suggest that that's not really what this statement was intended at. So that was kind of the closest thing other than no motorized other motor vehicles or
Yeah,
motorized
that's
activity, but
not-
I also don't think that really
There's no
applies.
people.
So as far as I can tell from the management plan, it's something that wasn't really thought about or discussed. And so I really think this is something that is kind of up to you to make a decision on at this time.
I think we need more information,
Okay.
like how many drones, what kind of noise is it making?
And I think they're RC.
When are they gonna
planes,
be
they're not
there?
Drones, are they RC planes? or
RC
drones?
planes is how they were described. I don't
See-
know how fundamentally different that is.
Here's my leaning, I'll show you my cards. I grew up in Philadelphia suburbs near Valley Forge National Park. My entire childhood, every time we went there, there's these RC plane guys flying these planes around, they were so cool. And a national park, Valley Forge allowed it, and you know, Goose Hill would be perfect for it.
Hmm.
I see it as a recreational use. Some people like to sled, some people like to bike, some people like to look at birds. So I would be leaning towards, my only concern would be like to do it in a way that, so for a recreational use, but then this is another dimension and it's educational. So I guess that's even better. I don't know, like I would even vote for making a recreational use allowed. My only concern, and I think more information needed, like insurance. Liability, are we worried about these things? Like, you weren't proposing we would open it up for people to do it at any time.
I would really be absolutely against opening up people. When you start saying like people flying in planes around, I say that'd be so annoying. And you're like, they were so
Yeah.
cool. It's like, I would find that so annoying.
Well,
So people would take it differently. So I would
probably not too
I
different
would be
than leaf
really
blowers.
against it. Well, nobody's leaf blowing in Catamount when people are trying to go for a walk, are they?
Oh my gosh, everywhere in Vermont, if you just stop and listen,
No, I said in the forest.
some neighbor.
Yeah, no,
got
I was just
some
talking about, I'm
freaky
going for a
leaf
walk in the
blower.
forest.
And I guarantee you'll hear a leaf blower in the
Yeah.
distance with somebody.
Um,
Have them come in to the next meeting and tell us what it's going to be like so that we like
Yeah.
actually have a clear picture. And then I think another thing I would want to understand is like why are they interested in Catamount
yeah, there's so
specifically?
many other fields. They could do
And
it.
do they, yeah, like do they know about our other natural areas and do they want to also come into Conservation Commission? Because in my head, I'm like, well, is this just practice navigating through a forest? We have what, 6 other forested parcels in town that don't have the same constraints and visitations. Maybe this is like in parks and protected area management, it's like you make the resource more available, right?
So
Um,
I think it's more of what Hans was saying, like, it's the open area, not navigating through the forest, but just flying in the open area in a
mm.
beautiful Vermont setting. I think that's really, it's a,
I
Yeah,
think
you get
Alan
like a-
would
Five
say-
Tree Hill? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think they should come into multiple meetings and tell us about it.
okay.
Gosh, are you kidding? Multiple meetings.
No, our meeting and Conservation Commission, in
Oh,
case there's like
okay.
another area that
It just doesn't
also.
seem like a use that lines up with what I think the purpose of this conserved land is, so that's
I think,
my
I
opinion.
agree, it's a bit of a stretch, but.
I think people go up there
Recreation.
for the peace and
Right.
quiet, and I'm not opposed to this. But I think there would need to be a specific day, time of day, some signage where
Stay in
people
the
say,
fields.
there's a sign that says, if you go over here, this is what's going on.
Right.
And you're gonna hear things and see things that you might not otherwise see at this particular time on a particular
Yeah.
day.
And
But I think
it would
more
have- it would have
information
to
would be great.
Whenever a time when it's not gonna be, obviously fall, different than, bird mating time or
Right.
whatever, we don't want it
Yeah,
to be disturbing,
migration.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a compelling argument for not having the policy of just anyone can come at any time.
Right.
Yeah,
And especially because if you have an open policy, the lines between different kinds of flying remote controlled
Right.
craft is.
And who's gonna be
Right,
responsible
and,
for
yeah,
policing it,
so-
so.
So I think you
that's a good point.
I think you all make some great points, and I also think, yeah, you give a pretty clear direction. I'll call Jack back. I'll say the committee discussed it, and there were some arguments on both sides. They'd love to talk to you. and you want to come in next time and, present.
Maybe you could bring one and we can
Yeah,
share it out.
I think he
back,
offered to do that.
fly out
so,
back, yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, thank you for your input, and we're right on time.
Dave, I had my
What's-
hand raised. Can I say something?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So-
Chapin, thank you for joining us.
It was just a piece of information, which is there's a gentleman who, make sure I'm unmuted. There's a gentleman who walks his remote controlled plane around the soccer fields on the rec path behind the school regularly. And he drives in his car, arrives, brings out his plane, and he flies it often very high, so you're not even aware it's going, but you see him with his controller around his belt. And then he sometimes makes it loop and land on the soccer field and so forth. And so this is not an argument about anything, just a piece of information that we currently have somebody regularly running one of these on our rec path. Thanks.
As they should.
Great, thank you, Chapin.
Thanks, David.
Yeah, any other comments on RC plans before we move on? All right, to be continued.
Well, we're 1 minute ahead of schedule now. Forestry and
Yeah,
Basics.
it took a lot longer to talk about planes.
Yeah,
than
very exciting topic.
Okay, so last time we met with Bob Hyams and we talked about the different components of invasives plan, and the time before that we talked about harvesting and what the different timelines might look from that. So I wanted to block off a little bit of time for a follow-up on both of those items. With regards to the invasives plan, just an opportunity for any further comments after the conversation last week. And then with regards to the forestry management plan, I think it would be great if we could, if there was a consensus here tonight, if we could sort of make a commitment to a timeline for that, so that we can plan and move forward
Sorry, a timeline for,
when to proceed with the second part of Ethan's plan.
Is that what
Okay,
harvest
right,
means? Is that what
yeah.
the harvest timing is?
Yeah.
Trees?
Harvest of trees, yes.
Okay.
gotcha.
Right.
I was like, I assumed it was the hay,
Oh, yeah.
and then you started talking about harvesting. We were harvesting the invasives, so I was
Right,
really
yeah, it's a
confused.
good point. Harvest
Okay.
is a little bit of a,
Too bad they're not edible.
That-
Harvest them.
Exactly.
depending on who you talk to, harvest is a little bit of a euphemism for cutting trees.
Okay,
So let's start with the invasives plan. So I talked to Bob, just to follow up, kind of summarize a bunch of the information. I sent him the AI summary from Han.
I didn't know what an
all the
invasive plan would
information
look
to,
like, so I.
AI summary. Thought that was fun, and it was a nice summary of all the information that kind of was collected. But so starting with Bob's comment, we're pretty much, he's ready to move forward and start putting together a plan. The biggest question for him as it comes back to the committee is the plan could look different in terms of what the 10-year prescription is, depending on what the expectation is for financial investment from the town. And so there are a couple ways that we could sort of proceed. And one is to say, okay, we want this plan to look like the bare minimum. What would it, and this was a question that was raised last time, it's like, what would it cost bare minimum to try to keep things in stasis and make sure that the situation with the basics doesn't get any worse? And then anything else is gravy, but what would that be the bare minimum? Another option would be to take the figure that Ethan Tapper projected several years ago, which was $50,000 over 10 years, or roughly an investment of $5,000 a year, and run with that and say, okay, here's what that would look like if you were to put that level investment in a 10-year plan.
Is that more or less than the first option? 5,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money.
Oh, doesn't seem like a lot of
Doesn't
money.
like a lot of money.
That's a great question. I think that would be more than the bare
The
minimum.
minimum,
Yeah.
okay.
That's my projection, but I don't know.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then there are probably different shades of gray, but it would be helpful, and I think it would kind of make the path clear to provide some answer to that question for Bob, so he's not just kind of guessing with how proactive we can and should be in terms of what to do.
I had this tension when he was in the meeting with us, like, you know, it's like, here, I just bought a house that's run down and you get a contractor, what will it take to fix this up so it's livable? I don't know how much money do you have? No, I want to know how much it's gonna cost to make this house livable. No, I want to know how much money you have. It's like, what's the point of doing a plan? I don't get it. Like if we're starting with how much money we want to spend and then it'll tell us what we should do. Like, I think we can probably figure out what we need to do, like the three main invasives we've been talking about endlessly. And you just apply the correct tool for the job, the rose thorn, whatever that stuff is, you have to spray, hire somebody to spray it. The stump treatment stuff, we do that, and then the other weed puller thingy dingy. Like, so I don't know what that Terry does, and you know.
Yeah.
And
Jacob.
Yeah.
I
So
was just gonna say, we have like an invasive superhero, an invasive removal superhero that has joined us tonight. I'm wondering if we can get his thoughts on it, but please finish first, Hans. I just want to note that Chapin is like championing of this effort townwide.
yeah, no, that's a great call out. I'll finish my thought with just, I think we were looking for like a prescription of what would be appropriate. But I feel like what we're getting back is not that. And I don't know what it costs to create an invasive plan. But I had hoped some of the value of the invasive plan was an expert providing us a prescription. And then we could look at the price tag and say, oh, okay, well, but I want to give and take, right? I understand he doesn't want to come back with $100,000 plan a year, and then we're like, what, are you crazy? Right? We have to like give and take, you know, there's a little bit of a give and take, but I'm struggling a little bit with, you know, what do you what does he think it'll take to keep them at bay? And like, I don't know, to answer a question back to say like, how much money do you have? This doesn't feel quite right to me.
Yeah, fair point. I didn't, and maybe I didn't present it, but or maybe that's the reception you got last week. I definitely had a slightly different take in that I think this is just Bob coming at it from understanding the very real restrictions, you know, in this work. Trying to control invasive species is in the grand scheme of things, a futile task in some ways, right? I mean, it's like we can't remove invasive species. We could spend, you know, as a society, we do spend billions of dollars a year to try to keep them at bay, which is a worthwhile goal. But it's a question of how maximalist you want to go, right? And so I think it is reasonable to just provide a guideline there. I don't think it's so much of a question of how much money do you want to spend. I think it's almost a question for us of like, is the committee going to be recommending that the town pursue some, you know, significant additional funding, right, for this? Or are we looking for something that will be kind of a sustainable, minimalist level that we can do year after year to just kind of keep things at a stable level?
Well, I was just gonna ask a question, but I think we were waiting for Chapin.
That's kind of my take on it, but I do hear a valid, you know, point. Chapin.
It looked so you were going to say something to Kim.
Well, thanks. I was just gonna say, I think this goes back to a comment that I tried to make at the last meeting about this and I think failed. And Chapin, you actually probably will do a better job speaking on this than I will. But like fundamentally, I think management plans have to have objectives. And because what you just said is true, Dave, like it's a futile effort. We actually can't get rid of them. We have to have an objective that we're shooting for, right? And that's like prioritizing one area that's ecologically, you know, significant, or like minimizing human health risks, or like there has to, the goal can't be get rid of invasives, because that's not actually achievable and we'll just throw money at a problem for a long time. But as a committee, I think the thing that he was struggling with is we couldn't tell him what we want. So like, to use Han's analogy, we brought him to this broken down house and we were like, how much will it cost to fix it? And the contractor was like, well, do you want it to be a mansion, or do you want it to be like a non-winterized lake house? And we were like, right. So I think, I don't know, that's my comment, is that I think we have to figure out what we want the management plan to do. And I'm hoping Chapin can talk about this a little bit more, because he's done so much more thinking on like, what is the long-term goal of like this area, and then how do we attack it? Not that specific area, but like areas in general. Take it away, Chapin.
And it's also worth commenting that Jim McCullough did a lot of removal of purple loosestrife, and he took out a bunch of locust. I think it was somewhere past Goose Hill, but those are things that I generally don't pay attention to. But yes, back in 2018 for the Vermont Master Naturalist Program, I worked on mapping these for Ethan, mapping the invasives at Catamount. And then I'd spent a couple of summers doing some spraying under his direction. I hate spraying, but I did it. So to me, you need objectives and you need a strategy. And a lot of Ethan's strategy, say with buckthorn, was to go to the farthest reaches of it in the woods and work backwards towards the trails. Because if you start from the trails, it's a huge amount of effort to clear it where it's so thick near the trails, and you're just chasing the infestation that's growing back into the woods further. And so his idea was corral it. You start with the furthest instance and work backwards, sort of corral it, so that you're working in a smaller and smaller region. And overall, that's more effective. And I feel like Catamount is so far gone with invasives, especially the Japanese barberry, the buckthorn, and the honeysuckle, those three in particular, that you can't just say we're going to get rid of them. You have to say, how are you going to try to contain them? And also, if there's something new that there's not much of, that's a much higher priority than the ones that are already pervasive. That may sound strange, but if you find some autumn olive, get rid of it, because you don't have a lot of autumn olive, and you can stop it from being more work in the future. So that's my main input, is a strategy that corrals it, and also deciding which ones are important. And of course, part of being important is what causes a hazard. And so I think parsnip is in its own category in terms of being a hazard. It's also the only herbaceous one that we're aggressively going after. Most of the others you're talking about are woody, or you would be talking about. But isn't there an existing invasive plan?
No, that's why we were asking to get a plan made. Ethan did like a mini plan sort of. But he was very open that he didn't feel he was an expert, and thought we should get an expert.
Yeah. So I was basically feeding data to him and then helping him implement his plan. And so that's all that I'm really aware of at Catamount is his plan. I've been trying some experimental methods on some things, but there's some real big infestations there, and you have to decide which ones are important and how you're going to approach them.
Right. So let me see if I can extract the answer to this question in a slightly different way. But first I'll say, so in response to Kim's comment, I think some goals did clearly emerge in the conversation last time, particularly around the prioritization of parsnip as help hazard and some of these other priority species. Chapin, I think you make a great point that early detection, is, and rapid response, is has to be an important feature of it. And Hans, I think you're suggestion last week of the structure of really of the script, a 10-year plan prescription is key in terms of what this will look like. So I think all of that does kind of suggest a direction. But in kind of getting to Bob's question, I think part of that is a question for the committee is are you prepared to suggest to the town that we pursue either a larger expenditure of funds, to tackle this problem at the level that's been suggested, noting that $5,000 a year is
Our budget's
five
more than
thirds,
$5,000 a year. The
For-
budget for this committee is more than $5,000
$3,000 a year
for invasives or something, right?
total.
How about capital?
Capital, there's about I want to say about $30,000
Yeah, I don't think we're,
in there.
I don't know that we have.
Right,
We
which
could
certainly
redirect that money,
could,
in my
could-
opinion.
yeah, certainly could be drawn down for this, but it's the capital budget has been suggested also as the source for many other things that I've heard, including, the bridges that we're supposed to replace and the parking lot that we're supposed to maintain, and all other
We've had
aspects.
conversations, we've had those conversations, I think.
Yeah, so
Neither one of those are appropriate, so that's, the parking lot is a parking lot like any other parking lot, it shouldn't have to belong to. We don't, just because there's a budget for this, it's Public Works who's their parking lot.
Yeah,
And we had
okay.
that conversation with them, so that's okay.
sure,
And the bridges, I think we put the money in the community fund.
Yeah.
To do the
Okay.
bridges, so that's off the table too, so I think we have $30,000 that we could.
Okay.
Ask the select board to redirect for invasives, and it wouldn't cost any more money.
right, okay.
So the money could be available. The question is then, do we want to do it and what is our goal? Like, I like your point on the health. Like, we want to keep the place safe. If there's invasives that harm people's health, those should be dealt with. But otherwise, what difference does it make if we have the barberry, is that the prickly stuff that you can only spray? Like, what difference
Oh,
is
no,
that
what's
just?
that stuff? That was something new that he brought up. I'd never heard of before.
What if that's just spreads? I don't know.
We've heard of that.
Did that
Well,
change?
So
Who cares? I don't know. As long as it's not on the trails where people are. I guess. I mean, I'm poking at it.
yeah,
I mean, like, you've
that's.
depressed me to say that, like, it's
So,
inevitable, they're
Let
taking
me, let me,
over.
let me
I mean,
clarify.
like, why are we
Yeah.
Don Quixote?
Let me clarify that was a slightly tongue-in-cheek comment. I didn't mean to suggest that controlling invasive species is not a worthwhile effort. I simply mean that in terms of how much resources you could put towards it at a townwide scale, it's a bottomless pit. It's not something we can solve out of existence. It's
Yeah.
a stewardship problem that is going to require, work. It's taking care of, it's a part of taking care of the land in perpetuity because we've reshaped the world in the way that it is. And the primary concerns, the reason that an invasive species is defined as invasive species is it either has an impact for human health, economics, so it might threaten agriculture, for example, might cause infrastructure damage, things like Japanese knotweed and the erosion problems that it contributes to. Parsnip can be a major agricultural pest in addition to the human health aspects. Or the third reason, which is the most common with many of our forest invasives, is that it's a significant threat to our ecology in terms of severely over time degrading the amount of food and resources that's there for wildlife. And the fact that Catamount is conserved not just for, if it was just a place that we envisioned as a playground for recreation, that was purely it, then, we probably really could posit that, like, who cares if, you look into the woods and it's barberry or it's, something with more value to animals that are native viburnums, for example. But in this case, this is 400 acres that we invested in as a town for a whole list of reasons. Some of them being that the ecology there is meaningful, and we protect birds there. We have deer wintering habitat. We have all different kinds of animals that use it, and so even though it's protecting ecological benefits is always more of an abstraction for when it comes to what should we spend money on compared to direct impacts to human health. I think that at a flagship natural area town forest like this, that is, certainly an area where you can say it is worthwhile to spend this money. So that's sort of the argument there on the flip side, but
So what if we had something that was, I like to jump right to the point. We said $20,000 a year. That's what we want to propose to the select board to put in the budget, redirecting the capital money. We want anything that's human health related. We need a plan. Part of the plan needs to be how do you maintain, but that's number one, how do we keep that going? And how much does it cost? Like what? And then what was the next one? Like early detection. I do agree that if we find something new, let's keep it from getting in. That totally makes sense to me, and that involves this new stuff. And then I know buckthorn and what's the stuff with the white flowers? The
Rose.
No, that's the rose. That's
Honeysuckle. There's a lot of honeysuckle there.
Yeah.
Here's my
Honeysuckle,
guilty thing that like I'm like ashamed to admit. Forgive me, Chapin. I think it smells so good.
oh, it does. Don't feel bad. That's the reason why we have half these species is they're
And
beautiful.
What are those freaking vines that are like that they have vines that
Bittersweet.
Bittersweet? Is that
Yeah,
what
that's one of the ones that
It's great.
that Bob mentioned.
And there's
Grape,
two, those,
yeah.
those ones get big, I think, too,
Yeah.
yeah. But, and then just like, I don't know, for everything else, so we have the health. And also the, everything else that, to me, in my mind, which is not biology, it's like you have the field invasives and you have the woody invasives, and what kind of plan would we do over 10 years?
Yeah.
What would be the best way to attack it and what areas? And like, I kind of agree with Chapin. It's kind of interesting. It's like, if we only see a couple of them, maybe we could do, 5 acres a year if there's only a little, or you're just maintaining,
Mhm.
but you can only do a half an acre if it's heavily infested with all this stuff. And so
Right.
that I just don't know. That's,
And that's for Bob to tell us.
Right.
And I think he's well equipped to do that.
I guess the only other, just before I lose my thought, the other thing that we kind of kicked around was like, are there, like if we said health, early detection, then, what, something else under that? Is there areas, do we need to decide like this, when there was some part, maybe up near the geocache is gonna be, where we thought maybe that wasn't as high priority, but I don't really remember why. But there seemed like there were some areas that were
Yeah.
lower priority than.
Right. So that is something that Bob can do is determine what the mapping units need to be or for how it's controlled, and those will correspond to the 10-year plan. Work in this area, this area, this area.
Yeah.
And those areas are lower priority in that they don't have currently as much invasive presence. So still high priority in terms that you don't want to let it get bad, but it's not necessarily a place where you have to like spend a lot of time year one. So
what's resonating with me is the health concerns, the early detection, and then threat to ecology. Health concerns, we want 0 threats to people. Early detection, if there's new things that come up, we want to stamp them out completely. Threat to ecology, I would say keep it at bay. And those, I don't know if Kim can tell us if those are goals. I don't know if those are goals. But I would like him to then tell us what that costs. I'm very uncomfortable telling him we want to spend 20,000. I don't think, like, the whole point of getting a professional is to tell him, I want this rundown house to be turned into a winter camp. Kim, you're right. I need to be more specific with what we want. Turn it into a winter camp. I don't want to get sick when I'm sleeping there. It doesn't need to be well insulated.
But that makes sense if you're talking to a contractor you're gonna hire. This guy's putting a plan together.
Well, it's even better if we're not hiring him. So he doesn't have any like motive of like.
I don't know. I think it would be really hard for me to put a plan together, not knowing if you want to spend $3,000 or $100,000. We can give him a range maybe, but.
I really think you want some goals. And one can be that you do not want the woody invasives to spread on the further reaches of the trails. And so, when I was mapping for Ethan back in 2018, walking all the trails, the further reaches of most of the trails have very few. And those are the areas to get them out of. The areas where they're pervasive, it's unfortunate, but it's a huge amount of work and you haven't stopped the spread. So I
Stop
think
the spread.
yes, and so stop the spread, even of the ones that are all, even the buckthorn, the honeysuckle, and the vine, and the barberry, and
Right.
and those are in fact crowding out natives in the
Yeah.
places where they are pervasive, where there's a lot of them. But I kind of agree with you. I forget your name. Sorry, that
Gene or Hans?
no, Hans, right? Yeah. So that if it's not doing harm to people, and we can't get rid of it within a reasonable budget, we are going to leave it. And I think that's true of a lot of these, but you don't want it to take over the whole 400 and some acres. And so to me, it's a matter of corralling it. That to me, you need to set a goal and say we want to, and you could do it on a map. And you have a map of where they're pervasive and say now in all the other areas we want to keep taking them out every year. And it could be on a budget. But I think somebody making a plan can give you numbers for those pieces. They could say, and frankly, on the parsnip, I would rely on volunteers.
I think that
parsnip.
will be the plan because it's not effectively treated in the same way.
So it's the woody, and it's a different time of year, and so the woody invasives, and you have to decide if you're going to include multiflora rose. It's sort of in its own category, but the woody invasives, to me, you need to map out where you're going to contain them, and there's a price for that. And it's a multi-year effort for any of these. There's, as you know, there's a seed bank in the ground that will last for quite a few years for honeysuckle and buckthorn and barberry.
And Chapin, I mean, I've been doing this for a decade now in my own woods. And I think what I learned is that with buckthorn, to take as an example, I don't focus on the ones that are, 1 to 3 years. I focus on the ones that are seeding because I know that if I don't stop the seeding, then I'm going to be coming back year after year after year. So I don't necessarily take it, I have a small plot of land, but I don't go with the geographic approach. I look in the woods to say, these are going to continue to seed everything that I've just cleared over there if I don't cut that first.
And if they're at that maturity, you can also tell because the dioecious, and you're doing this in the fall, you can tell if they're male or female, and you can leave the males.
What?
Right.
You can sex a tree?
Yep.
So some of them don't produce seeds.
Oh,
the ones that don't have berries in the fall are male trees, and you're not going to get rid of all the pollen, so you may as well leave them if you want. They're taking space. They're taking up space from natives, but it's different from a tree that's actually reproducing.
That's buckthorn, or which one is that?
Buckthorn, yeah.
No way. So we should label them. We should pink and blue.
Well, you could go out and blue.
Okay,
so you go out there and you can
let me
see
just,
thousands and thousands.
It's gonna be so much fun.
This is great.
yeah, let's try this on. So I think what I'm hearing from the committee are a number of very clearly articulated goals. I think that is all consistent with the conversations that are happening. I'm hearing that the committee acknowledges that it's not a reasonable goal to say that we're going to eradicate invasive species from Catamount in 10 or even 20 years. And I'm hearing that we are willing to draw down the capital fund over time in order to fund this. And so that does open up the possibility that we could reasonably arrive at $5,000 a year if you're willing to put, a significant chunk of your annual allotment plus drawing down the capital fund.
You're not really drawing it down. This is the money that's in the expense budget every year to put towards a capital fund. You're funding your capital fund, so at the end of so many years you have.
So, I mean, I'd have to get some more information on that, but as far as I know, the capital fund for Catamount is a piggy bank. And it's not renewed annually. It started off as around $20,000, then around $20,000 was put in after the harvest that was generated from that harvest, and it's stayed static.
Okay, maybe we're talking about some two different things.
Since
I'll
then.
back and look one.
So, yeah, there could be, yeah, there definitely may be other,
Because I remember we had a big
options.
conversation about the budget and how much money we were gonna put,
Mhm.
ask Eric to put in the
Okay.
capital.
yeah,
So it was. so-
right, and you may know better than me that how there may be different levers for
Okay.
having that conversation with town manager, but
And
it does.
and you
seem like
mentioned
to
you
put
mentioned a
that
good
kind of
thing.
funds towards the project.
Yeah, and you
Hmm.
mentioned a good thing, Dave, which was part of the rationale for the harvest was that it would help fund the invasive management costs.
We should be spending it.
All right, so it's close to 7 o'clock, so I think we can, we can put off the conversation about the forestry activity till next time. We know that it's not urgent. And a couple other small updates that I had, we did. Yeah, is it all right if we just wrap up real quick?
Yeah,
So I'll just, a few very quick things that I was hoping to mention last time, but I ran out of time is we did use our FY 25 budget to fund a repair for the sheep barn door. And get some brush hogging done, which was great. We didn't, ultimately, there wasn't enough time to do research on trail counters. In making that happen from last year's budget, but maybe next time we can make some space for Kim to talk about a potential project in the academic world that may provide an opportunity to put trail counters out there anyways. And I also wanted to mention that the haying lease was fully signed and executed for the next round of 3 years with the D graphs, and I think that was very successful. It was a mixed year for the bobolinks, but their breeding season is done. They had some breeding success, even if it wasn't extreme, but they've successfully bred, and timing that with the mowing worked out well. So it was a good conversation. Everyone involved in that was respectful and engaged, and I think there's a lot of understanding gained from just the needs and interests of the farming family and the needs and interests of the birders on both sides. So that's kind of the update there.
sounds good.
Mhm.
Then, if nothing else, we should have a motion to adjourn.
Could I add one thing to the previous discussion? Dave, when you summarized it was good. I would add one other thing, which is it's a major decision to me whether whoever's doing the work uses foliar spray. And to me, when I talk about woody invasives, it's all about cut stump treatment. For me, doing it the right time of year and doing cut stump treatment, because that's such a small and surgical application of herbicide, whereas foliar spray gets other things too. All your natives get overspray and so forth. And so to me, it would be valuable for this group to say whether you would expect any foliar spray or not, or maybe just for multiflora rose or something. But I would generally keep the foliar spray out of the woods as my preference.
And even
That's
for
a good
the Barbary, I thought the Barbary is impossible to do anything without.
But I can get Bob's opinion on that. We
Yeah.
can keep that conversation going.
As minimal as possible.
I know Ethan was a fan of using foliar spray to treat Japanese barberry specifically.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for that comment,
And-
Chip.
And actually, that is a tipping point one to me. Japanese barberry is possible where it's thick, where it's sort of taken over the understory.
Okay, I think, good motion,
Yeah. Second.
adjourn.
I'm disappointed that we're not talking about Catamount portalets, but that's okay.
Oh,
Mhm.
We'll wait till next month.
Then all in favor to adjourn? Aye,
All right.
And I
and good, we see Ken. Four, all right, we're
Aye.
adjourned at 7:02.
Look at that.
Who made the motion?
Thank you for
Oh,
taking my input.
am I allowed to?
Thank you, Chapin.
Thank you.
I never know as the chair if you're allowed to make motions. Are you
It
supposed to
technically
get some?
not.
Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm the vice chair too.
Yes.
And can the chair second?
Really good, I learned a lot.
I told them a lot about basics and some of that.
Yeah, exactly, about the sexes between.
Yeah,
It's
and that's
Wow,
females.
buckthorn.
Yeah,
My
Buckthorn.
husband's obsessed with getting rid of it in our yard, now I gotta
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
I've gotta go check.
Tell
it out.
them